Good morning, gorgeous people. I did mean to put this on here like this so that this was the opening slide, but we're talking today about getting comfortable with uncomfortable. Those of you new to the Monday Make It Happen videos, this is all about helping you get motivated for the week ahead, but it's also about managing that critic, that inner talk, the way that you talk to yourself and about yourself in order to make whatever it is that you want to have happen. So please, as you come online, please share with me in the comments where you are, what you're up to this week, where's your focus, and what would you like to have happen. In the meantime, I'm going to talk to you about getting comfortable with uncomfortable. One of the big things about change is that we are all the time, right now, we're processing with all of our senses. So looking around you and just seeing what you can see and just noticing, what has changed, what would you like to change, hearing what you're listening to yourself, what sounds you're hearing, and just noticing, what has changed or what you'd like to change. Taste, what you touch, what you feel, and also smell. So right now, through all of your five senses, you have been processing huge amounts of information over the weekend, over the last week, the last month, the last quarter, and right here, right now, all of that information has been absorbed by you, and then you're going to make informed decisions. However, whenever we go through change, it is a process and there is a series of things that will happen, and when you get to know your process, you can get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable at times. And so I want to share with you today some of the things that are going on in my world. I'm going to just show you a quick PowerPoint, and I'm going to show you this is what my space looks like right now, and I'm very uncomfortable with it, but I'm also going to share with you how I get comfortable with it, what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and what could work better. So as I'm telling you about it, I'm also just checking in with myself. This is me being conscious of my thoughts, conscious of my feelings, and having this really honest and helpful conversation with you, which I hope will encourage you to do the same. So one of the things that's happening for me right now, those of you who don't know, is I was going to ask you, for change for you is like what? I forgot to put that PowerPoint there. So please, in the chat box, if you're change for you is like what? Now, some people absolutely thrive on change, and if something's going on in my life where somebody else is distressed or upset and they need help, I can change, or on a what's that expression? On a pinhead, I don't know what it is. So I can just change really, really quickly. I have no problem changing when it's external to me and it's in service of somebody else. What I've learned over the years is that when I change for myself, it seems to take my system a little while to update. When I trained as a coach, one of the things we have to get comfortable with is that we don't have all the answers. We're not there to solve the problems, and therefore we're there to ask questions to help facilitate the thinking of the other person. So an expression that our trainers and mentors will say to us is get comfortable with the uncomfortable, or get comfortable with not knowing, because your brain is hardwired to want to know, predict the pattern, to know what's going to happen next, to know that you can help, that you can solve a problem. And so one of the greatest gifts for me when I trained as a coach was I had to learn to get comfortable with uncomfortable. And another expression which I've got on the slide later is that we had to learn to just trust the process. But of course, you have to know the process, you have to have experienced the process, and you have to have paid attention to the process for your physiological system to go, oh, do you know what? Yeah, this is that uncomfortable bit where, maybe someone's talking as a client and they've got loads of information and I'm not quite sure where it's going. But I trust the process, that if I ask a question and I put their attention on what they'd like to have happen, and words and behavior and patterns that seem resourceful in relation to the thing that they want to have happen, then I know that by the end of that 90-minute session, stuff just unravels. I've done it enough times that I know by the end of that session, they will have more clarity. And so when you know the process, it's much easier to trust it. But of course, if you're not consciously aware of your process with change, it can be very discombobulating, is that the word? Very unsettling, and that can cause stress levels in your system and therefore affect your performance and relationships. So we've got good morning. Paul says, I quite like change. I always see it as a fun thing. Fabulous. That's great to know. And so it's when we've got someone like Paul who loves change. So change for you is like what? If you had a metaphor for it, Paul, please do share that with us. Because right now I realise I love change, or I don't necessarily love it. I'm really fast to act on change when it's supporting somebody else. I'm quite reactive and I can get change really quickly. I love change that I'm planning and I'm doing. So I love the fact that I'm doing my front room up at the moment and decorating. I love the fact that I've got my brother in and he's building a summer house stroke beach hut in the garden. I love all that change. What I don't always like, but I'm much better now at managing it, is change that's imposed on me, the unexpected change. So those who've watched Facebook will know that yesterday we were pulling out the room to decorate it, and we've discovered that we have carpet moth, we have carpet beetle that has been eating the corner of our carpets, which isn't very pleasant. So instead of being that it was all organised yesterday and the change process was all going to happen, everything would have been back in the living room by the end of yesterday. Everything would have been put away. I have not been able to put it all back because we've got to get the pest control people in on Wednesday, and Nat's going to be sorting out our living room, which also means that I now can't be in the house for 3 hours on Wednesday. So I've had to change it. So whilst I'm happy to do it, I'm not sure I would use the metaphor that I'm enjoying it. What I'm noticing is there's a sort of kind of a tension in my chest and I feel a bit unsettled, and I'm having to work to keep reminding myself of what I want and getting clarity, making plans so that I know that we can get through this unexpected change. I see it like a present at Christmas. You don't quite know what's there until it's fully unwrapped. Fabulous. That's so interesting that you use present as a metaphor, because I'm not very good at receiving gifts. So that's a bit of interesting. That's a bit of good feedback for me. So pause for like a change for him is like a gift. What's change like for me? It's like a journey, I guess that's the best way I could describe it. It's like and sometimes that journey is really great because I'm anticipating, I know roughly where we're going, and it's somewhere new and it's exciting and I can't wait to get there, which I guess is probably very similar to the gift thing. But equally, what I want to talk today about is often when it doesn't happen in the time that you expected it to. For me, when that's a journey and we're not getting there as quickly as I thought we were, or there seems to be some roadblocks on the way, or things aren't changing as fast as I'd like them to, I guess that's when I start to feel a bit unsettled and a bit about change. So that's new information for me. So those of you who don't know this, whilst you might see this lovely perception here, this is actually what I am seeing right now. And so the first one with the chair, that's the view over there to the left of me. The next one along is the one I can see to the right. The one next there is my view to the left, and the two on the right is my living room. And that's basically because the content of the living room at 9:30, 9:45 last night was having to be, we had put it into the living room and then we had to put it back out again when we found this moth, and we had to change our plans. So what I want you to think about is that for me, when change is uncomfortable, I'm really good at focusing on and ignoring all this. One of the things that can happen though is we get in this pattern of ignoring the change that's uncomfortable, and it works as a really good short-term strategy. But it's not always such a great thing long term. So if I continue to wear these metaphorical blinkers and I ignored all this, my kitchen is quite a sanity space right now. So I love cooking, I love the smell. And it's all clear out there, and we've kept it clear purposely so at least there's one space we can go to for some sanity check-in, is that it'd be very easy for me just to keep staying in that space and ignore this space. And what can happen is we develop these strategies as a protection mechanism, and they're great for short term, but obviously if I kept ignoring this, it would never get sorted out. So that's only a short-term strategy for me. So I want you to think about your own strategy for change. Now, those of you that have seen the 7 principles of motivated action, you will know that when we go through the change, it's about actually understanding what's the purpose. So I know that all of this chaos, all of this mess, the purpose for it staying here is because we're going to get the front room decorated. The reason it's still here today, the purpose is because we're going to get the pest control people in and that will be sorted. So I can talk to myself differently, I can make sense of the situation, and therefore I don't have to ignore it. I can simply acknowledge it and accept it, because I know this is temporary and this too will pass. I also know this is part of a process. I know that if I want to decorate a room, If you just decorate one room in your house, then it impacts every other area of your life. And taking this back to coaching, personal performance, and your own relationships, sometimes the reason we don't get around to sorting things out is because it feels too big a job, and we know that it's like one of my clients said the other day, she goes, I need a safe space to open a can of worms. And I've heard people use that metaphor when it comes to coming and asking for help with their ability to process their change, improving their performance or improving their relationships. And it's like it becomes this big thing. And I can honestly tell you, in every time that I've ever worked with someone who's got a metaphor of worms, whenever they've got round to opening it, it's been empty. That the process was that they were worried about a whole load of stuff, but once we opened it, sometimes there's a tangled ball of wool in there, and we just take it out and we're just taking one strand at a time, and we're looking at it bit by bit until they can unravel it all. But it often, when you have support to go through that process, it's not as scary as it might seem or feel in your own mind. So knowing how you do change, what your process is, and being able to notice if there's something that's improving or changing, knowing your own personal patterns. So I know that I'm going to struggle a little bit more this week because of the fact that I've got visual disarray around me, and because the soil will be going in the garden, I've got auditory disruption as well, and I'm much more sensitive to an auditory disruption than I am a visual. I can ignore the visual for quite a long time. So I will need to because I know that's my pattern, I'll need to put some strategies in place. And so one of the things I'm doing is making sure I go for long walks this week. Secondly, I'm going to go and stay at my daughter's house for a couple of hours on Wednesday. She doesn't know yet, I haven't asked her. And then I will ask for support where I need it if I need to get through these changes. So I have asked for support. I've contacted Nat to come and sort out the carpet moth. And I will also take time out to pause and rest. So I will find a space, even if it's just go to my bedroom where there is a bit of, there's some clearness there. Or what I'll do is I'll get on and clear some of this stuff up, just tidy it more. It was a bit of a rush job last night. So I want you to think about your process for change. So when, Paul, you said it's like a Christmas thing, what kind of change is that change? I'd love to know. And what happens just before that change? I'd love to know what kind of change is like a present at Christmas, that you don't quite know what's there until it's fully unwrapped, because I love the sound of that. And if I could adopt your attitude towards change, my own experience of change may well improve as well. Now, I have a process for change. I mapped it out because this is me being me. I like to do things in a logical order. So when I mapped it out, I in order to trust my process for change, I had to know my process. And so for me, I know that when I'm going through change, I need to be conscious of my thinking. I need to know what I'm saying to myself, what I'm saying to other people, and I need to just be noticing what's going on. And so I noticed yesterday that I was being a bit narky with my husband. Okay, so I was being like a bit sensitive about stuff. And of course, what I realised then is, whilst it wasn't quite working there, it was because I hadn't got I didn't have clarity about how I was going to manage Wednesday and how I was going to manage that change in my diary, because I had a particularly important call to take at 1 o'clock. The guys got to come 12 till 2. We can't get back in the house till 3. And I was like, I hadn't worked out where I was going to go to take that call. And I didn't really have the thoughts at the time, I just had these sensations. So for me, about change, I have to be conscious of that thinking and just conscious of what's going on inside me. Then I have to have some honest and helpful conversations. And that means for me, it's about going, what would you like to have happen? How do I need to be? And what kind of resource and support do I need? And then talking to the people that I need to talk to. Part of the process for me as well is about accepting and appreciate that which I cannot change. Okay, I cannot change the fact that I've got carpet moth and it's put me behind by 2 or 3 days. It is what it is. What I do though is look at having gratitude for that and what's it taught me. So what the whole carpet moth thing has taught me is that 2 years ago, before lockdown, I had a cleaner that came in once a week. And when I stopped having a cleaner, I did some of this sort of cleaning. But what I haven't done is what we used to do, my cleaner and I, every 6 weeks, one of the rooms, we'd do it together. And we'd pull all the heavy furniture out together and we would hoover behind the bits of furniture. So if she couldn't pull them out on her own, I would be available and we would pull them out. Because of all the changes in the last 2 years, I couldn't have my cleaner in, and she had to go and get another job because she needed to earn money because she couldn't go do her cleaning jobs. And so when we were allowed to have cleaners, she wasn't available, and lots of things have happened, and I decided actually I'll just make the time to do it myself. But what I haven't made the time for is the deep cleaning. I haven't done it. So if I had been hoovering around the edges of my room, we wouldn't have carpet moth now. So I can accept and appreciate that all this is not very good. What it's reminded me of, and it's made me aware of, is that I have changed something about my routine that means this has happened and hasn't been identified sooner. I have to nurture those negative niggles, okay? I am a little bit unsettled. I don't like mess. I like it to be organised. I like it to be chaotic. And I can nurture that by saying to myself, do you know what? This is temporary. This too will pass. But what I also know in every change model is that I'm going to get some growth out of this. I'm going to learn something. So as long as I take the time to actually appreciate what it's teaching me, and what I really am learning again is that, once again, even though we don't get paid for it, our role as homemakers, the way that we look after our environment, it absolutely impacts how we feel, and it represents and reflects back who we are. And so it's important to me that I just accept this is temporary, but have the gratitude for what it's teaching me about myself, and then embrace the change. And I think that's where it sounds like that's where probably where you start, Paul, and I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps to get there. And also, if I'm going through changes, I make sure I get support, because I know that for me, I'm an external processor. I do things a lot visually, and I need to hear it auditory back. So using a clean language coach or working with a clean language coach means I get access to that information within me, and I can change much faster when I have support. When I do it on my own, I can do it, it's uncomfortable, it takes longer, whereas if I actually got support, it's easier and faster. So I'm going to come back to Paul and find out what he's been saying. No, he's not there. You haven't got that there. He's dropped off. No problem. So on that note, I want you to think about today for yourself. What would you like to have happen this week? How do you need to be? And what kind of resource or support might you need? One of the ways you can really help set yourself up for success, and you can manage the stress that is often caused by change, is to consciously decide in this moment what you'd like to have happen. And consciously just remember and acknowledge how do you need to be, and then fully understand and explore what kind of resource or support might you need. And quite often, the only thing that we actually need is time to think about it. We just need time to stop and reflect and work out what it is that we'd like to have happen. So on that note, I'm going to pop in the chat box. I'm just going to pop in here a link to Tame the Time Monsters. It's one of our free guides on the Step by Step Listening website, and it's all about you just being aware of your conscious conversation you're having with yourself about time. Because I would say 85% of the time when I'm talking to clients, the way they talk to themselves and about themselves in relation to time can often be what triggers the stress relating to change. So if, for example, like Christmas, open a Christmas present, there's an anticipation for it, but you know what day it's going to happen, you know you're going to be there. But if you woke up on Christmas Day and you thought you're going to get 10 presents or 1 present and you didn't get anything at all, then that would have an impact. If you were thinking you're going to make X amount of money this week and you didn't get that money in the time that you thought you're going to get that money, if you thought you're going to lose weight, whatever the change is that you wanted, usually if the change is happening too fast or too slow, our system gets unsettled. And the great thing is that you can take control of that feeling immediately by being conscious of the thoughts you're having, and really listening to how you talk to yourself and about yourself about time. Hope you found this video useful today. If you did, please like it, please comment it. I'm on a mission to make sure everybody knows that if they are stuck and they're really struggling with change, that they do know how clean coaching can help. So I really appreciate your support to spread the word. Speak to you. Have a great week. See you next week.